Welcome back everybody to BeamNG.drive, and today we're dealing with the Bruckell Moonhawk, more specifically the V8 4-door sedan. Now this has 181 horsepower, 284 pounds-feet of torque from a 6.2 litre V8 engine. The car itself weighs 3,759 pounds, was made between 1976 and 1978, so that's why, despite having such a large engine, it has very little in the way of power. It's part of the Malaise era in American automotive car industry, and yeah, can do 0 to 60 in 8.9 seconds, 0 to 126.9 seconds, and going to a top speed of 126 miles an hour. So reasonable acceleration and top speed, but yeah, this is obviously quite a large, heavy, not particularly sophisticated American car, but does hopefully have strength on its side, which is pretty much the least that we can ask for. So yeah, and it does have, you know, soft wobbly suspension which can offer some protection. Blown out a couple of windows though, even just on that little jump there, so that's not a positive sign. It means that some of the bodywork has flexed. But yeah, there's really not that many jumps to do on this grid map as there used to be, so we're just going to go straight to the suspension testing area where cars can really get put through their paces. See if this can handle all of this, and if it can't, at least for how long it can last. Yeah, you can see that wobbly suspension working overtime there. This is just the appetizer, because obviously we have far more dangerous stuff to be dealing with in a second. Oh, that's collapsed a bit of the front suspension there. Let's just have a quick damage report. Yeah, it looks like the front has gone down a bit, and obviously the bonnet has opened up, which is not a good sign. Right, let's see if we can deal with some potholes. I'm sure we can. We're not that damaged right now. Fine. A lot of one tyre fires with this car because it's got a rubbish diff at the rear. Wobble, 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 wobble. Let's just take a look at the side of this as it wobbles. Yeah, look, you can see the suspension is working massively overtime. Losing hubcaps. It's mostly held up so far, so it's only a good thing clearly. Up and down, it's fine. Right, this is a real damaging one though now. This has harmed Greater Many car. Ooh, ooh, whoa. See that whole rear axle moving around. Whoa. Yeah, these don't phase it. I imagine your car would have to be fairly broken for those to have a damaging effect, quite frankly. Very nearly did not stop there, because obviously this does not have ABS. Has no safety systems whatsoever on it, which I guess is no surprise. Obviously the real test is whether or not it's able to survive any impacts, which we'll obviously get to in a while. Right, some jumps. The big weakness with this has always been the drive shaft, because it's quite a long car, and obviously you've got the engine gonna run the drive shaft from the front to the rear. We have also lost the oil pan, which is something that was part of the update with the widgeon. So yeah, if we don't kill the car via, you know, a driveline failure or anything else like that, then that's what's going to kill us ultimately. We still have a single hubcap on us. Right, this is quite a damaging bit as well. Oh dear, ow, ow, ow. I can feel every bump there, that was painful. Yeah, the doors have started to bow as well, so that's obviously not a good sign. The engine is smoking because of the oil leak that we've got going on. Yeah, the engine is going to die. Frankly, I'm surprised that rear suspension has held on as well as it has. Come on, give me a little bit of power. One last hurrah. There goes the head gasket. Still able to increase in speed though. Come on. Suspension looks hilarious at the rear. Come on, let's keep going. Are we dying? I think we're dying. Are we dying? Come on. Yeah. I don't think we have the power to get off this. Yeah, we're so heavily damaged that we just do not have the power at the moment. Come on, crawl out. There we go. So yeah, clearly the engine is the weakest part of this car, because the suspension for the most part has held up. Bodywork hasn't catastrophically failed, the driveline hasn't either. So yeah, it's the engine really, especially with the oil pan going. But it's still keeping us going, it's still accelerating, which shows it's at least somewhat tough, even if some of it isn't. I think it's got to a point now that it's not able to go fast enough to really damage itself, so let's go across these sideways, see what happens. Oh, lost a bumper. Yeah, engine is dead. There we go. So yeah, the Moonhawk is a little bit tough in some areas. The suspension definitely, and the driveline, and most of the bodywork to be fair. But the engine with that oil pan is really not quite as strong as you would have liked. But did last quite a while with its oil leaking out of it, which is, yeah, at least a positive in some regards. So let's get to the rollover sled and see if this can survive 3 launches on this sled. And then we'll attack it with some explosive barrels, and then we'll drive into a cinder block wall. Go on, I swear I did that, but it didn't work. Right. So muscle cars like this, I've tended to not be able to roll all that spectacularly. See if this is going to be an exception to that. The roof has caved in quite a lot already. Yeah, yeah, this is typically what happens with muscle cars like this. They roll over once and then they land quite effectively and then stop. So yeah, we're not going to get the most spectacular rolls out of this, but still, it'd be interesting to see how much it can survive in free rollovers. Although that roof is not looking particularly good anymore. And our doors have popped open, which is never a good sign. Oh dear. I've got us trapped. It's very easy to get beached on this thing, especially with a low car like this. Come on! Back it up then. Oh, I don't even want to do that. What the hell's gone on with this? Clearly we need a lot of speed to get up this thing, because we do not have the ground clearance apparently. So let's back it up a little bit. Keeps getting caught for some reason, but nonetheless, let's see what happens. See, when the roof of the car changes, that can sometimes change how it rolls over. Oh, this very nearly got a second roll there. Which again just shows that, yeah, when the roof changes on a car like this, the characteristics of it rolling can also change. So let's go from the other side this time, see if that makes any difference. Oh, for God's sake. Come on. Oh, well, we've lost a tyre now, but that's my fault, not the car's. Can I get more than one roll this time? Maybe? Yes? No? Nope. So yeah, muscle cars unintentionally have a good safety feature in the fact that they don't like to roll all that much, so yeah, I guess that's a plus point. But yeah, the roof line has come down towards your head in the driver's seat, so that is not a good sign, and yeah, I think most of the passengers would not have survived particularly well there. So yeah, nonetheless, let's get to the barrels and see what happens when we get a bit of an explosion on the go. Let's get a bit of a run up. This isn't the fastest accelerating car, as I have just said already with the acceleration times, but it will get to 60 in a reasonable distance. Let's just reload it here. That is once it's stopped having a one tyre fire. Is it going to survive? Whoa. Well, the oil pan hasn't, unsurprisingly. The radiator hasn't either, which again is not surprising considering that the front area is what took the brunt of that force. Oh, and we've lost the rear axle as well. So this car isn't going to be driving anywhere, that's for sure. But what about the people inside? That's a more important part. So let's roll it over. Yeah, I say they survived that a fair bit better than the rollover test, to be honest. That's probably because it didn't really come down on its roof, it only landed on its side. So yeah, but overall, survived that really nicely. So let's see if it can survive the cinder block wall. Now this does test the frontal safety systems that are in place, as well as the roof, because because those blocks can come over onto the roof at times. And I say it survived that fairly well as well. So I think this is pretty much past the grid map. It certainly passed us torturing the suspension and everything, and yeah, definitely past the cinderblock wall and the explosive barrels. A little bit of a you know, red flag with the rollover test purely because the roof line came a fair bit down, but yeah, outside of that, it's done really rather well here. So let's get to the crash hall and see what this can do with 30, 40 and 60 mile an hour small overlap crash tests. So here we are at the crash hall. So I'm not expecting much from this because it is quite old, and it is also heavy, and old cars typically don't have all that much in the way of safety, because yeah, even though the mat on the surface seem quite tough, when it comes to crashing, they generally put the forces through the car into the weaker areas of the vehicle. Because you might well have a tough chassis and everything, but that typically means that the softer parts will be compromised as a result of that. So let's see what happens at 30. You might well survive 30, but anything more than that is going to probably be a bit of a task for this. But yeah, definitely survive 30 there. But you can see where the soft areas are starting to fail. The doors and the roof are particularly on the verge of being compromised, but for now they have done fine. So yeah, if you had your seatbelt on, you might well have survived that, but obviously no airbags were the name of the game at that time in American car industry, so that would have been a detriment. Right, so let's see if it can deal with 40. Doesn't seem like a massive increase in speed, but if you'll see, it is. Yeah, there we go. More weakening of the softer areas. This time the doors have popped open. This time the roof has caved in on the windowsill and upwards on the roof line, which yeah, is not a good sign. And yeah, the steering wheel has also moved, as you can see. It's now more in the driver's lap, and you can see that the dashboard has moved as well because the column shifter has gone through the dash. So yeah, I wouldn't be entirely confident about surviving even a 40 mile an hour impact in this. So what's going to happen at 60? Well, it's probably going to be a disaster. So let's see. We have seen dramatic changes in in cars before, from 40 to 60. So I'm expecting the same here. Slow it right down to see what happens. Ow. Whoa, whoa. The steering wheel is practically touching the B pillar there. Yeah, that's death. No chance of surviving that whatsoever. That's even with us slightly being a bit more generous to the left. Yeah, that is devastating. The steering wheel has completely come towards the driver. I mean, the dashboard is practically going to be touching you as well. And obviously you're going to think about where your head is going and during a crash, and your head's going to be going forward as you're slowing down. But the dash and steering wheel is going to be coming towards you, and even the wheel, as you can see, is in the footwell. Yeah, that is a complete failure there. 30 mile an hour, fine. 40 mile an hour, hit or miss. But then this, yeah, definitely a fail. So yeah, nonetheless, let's get to the highway and see what this can do against two similarly sized vehicles and similarly weighted vehicles at 60 mile an hour, and then one that really isn't. Right, so here we are at the highway, and the first car we're going to be going up against is the Gavril Blue Book, which actually weighs the same as this. Slightly older, but it's going to be interesting to see what two American domestic cars can do against one another. So, yeah, let's find out. we don't have the best driving line clearly, and neither does the blue book, so we're not going to be hitting 100% on, but ow! I don't think either of us got away with that. Let's just try that again, because yeah, obviously we weren't 100% dead on. Because these cars do not have the best driving lines. They love to spear off to the left and the right. That's better. Oh! Yeah, definitely both of us survived that a bit better than last time. Principally because we're not, you know, off-centered or whatever. So yeah, we did alright there, but yeah, 60 mile an hour impact in any car is going to be a tough one to survive, and especially so in a late 70s car. So despite the overall passenger area looking alright, the passengers and driver would unlikely be so. So yeah, but overall the shape has mostly held up, although the blue book seems to have held up better, which is surprising given that's even older than this. But yeah, there we go. Let's try another classic American car, see if the Burnside can do any more damage to us. How much does one of these weigh? Just over 4,000. Right, we'll go for the Super Special, because that's slightly heavier. We like to go for one that's a bit lighter or the same weight, and then one a bit heavier, just to have a look. But obviously then the third vehicle is going to be massively heavier and yeah, far more unsuitable. So let's see what happens. Come on, let's get this going. We'll give this another start. And we're spearing off, but we're going to get a good central. It's going to be a good one, hopefully. Come on. Oh! Yeah, the Burnside got away with that mostly, to be fair. Most of that has held up nicely. But the Moonhawk, yeah, a bit less, so I think it did worse there than it did with the blue book, to be honest. The steering wheel looks like it has moved forwards. Yeah, definitely, as well as the dashboard. But not as severely as we saw in the overlap to crash test by any means. That might well have been a bit more survivable, but either way, yeah, that is a devastating crash for both cars, quite frankly. So, right, let's see what happens with this when we go up against something far, far heavier. I don't think we're going to stop a D series recently. Let's take a look at one that looks about the same age. It's 4.6, 4.7, not quite heavy enough for me. Don't think there's very many different old ones, to be honest. Got a classic old one that looks quite heavy. I mean, this isn't quite as massively heavier, but it is about 1,200 pounds heavier. But the big thing about this is that it has a higher ride height, so I'm interested to see what we can deal with when, you know, we're not just incompatible in terms of size and weight, but also ride height. And this looks like a pretty nasty beast, to be honest, so let's see what happens. Oh dear. Nope, that did not work out. We were completely speared off then with this. This does not like to accelerate and stay in a straight line all by itself, which I guess is no surprise. The Moonhawk doesn't even like doing that. Right. Pretty much central on here. We're going to slow it right down. Oh, melting the Moonhawk. Ow, 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 ow. Yeah, this pickup truck is completely overridden the car. where we're hitting the windscreen, which is not going to be helpful. Yeah, the wheel has gone right for the seat. Gonna roll over the truck though, unsurprisingly, given the high ride height. But the Moonhawk has actually survived in terms of the driveline and most of the other components, to be honest, whereas this hasn't. That is surprising. I'm surprised it still drives. Well, the Moonhawk might not be the most sturdy in terms of passenger or driver safety, but in terms of mechanical durability, that has survived remarkably well. But yeah, as you can see, the passenger and drivers would be pretty knackered, and yeah, got the wheel embedded in the floor as well, and yeah, this isn't done particularly well either. Don't know why the engine's still trying to rev. We specifically told it to stop. But yeah, outside of this pickup truck losing its engine practically, and the wheel and drive line, that actually survived the rollover fine, but then again it does have the rollover bar. But the Moonhawk, yeah, despite the underneath stuff being pretty sturdy, yeah, the passenger compartment is pretty weak, and yeah, definitely really didn't manage to survive this crash test. A bit middling in terms of the other two, but overall I think this car has done far better than I was expecting it to. But yeah, those small overlap crash tests were really rather punishing on this car. So yeah, not a car that's passed this episode with flying colours, but considering its age and weight, I was expecting a lot worse. Nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.